Hello, friends. Today we rise not with the sun, but with the scent of cedar oil. What a wonderful morning! Strange and still. You are not in your bed, but on a woven mat just beyond the courtyard of the embalmer's quarters, where the shadows are long and the walls hum with ancient prayers. Here, even the birds do not chirp before asking permission. The Nile is close, but not visible. Its waters hum softly through the stone alleys like a memory, a presence you feel more than hear. The reed canopy above you filters the light, not to protect you from the sun, but to delay the moment it finds your face. The others are already moving. Silent shapes in linen pass like thoughts that have not yet taken form. You sit up slowly, not because you're tired though you are, but because the air itself asks for gentleness. Nothing moves quickly here. Not footsteps, not time, and certainly not you. The day begins, not with a bell, but with smoke-thick coils of incense rising from the temple's belly. A priest somewhere is summoning the gods with sandalwood and recitation, his voice low, syllables carefully measured, as if each word must fit the breath of a god. You do not understand all the chants, but you feel their weight. They do not rise. They press down. You dress in silence, not out of ritual, but necessity. Linen tunic, sash, sandals you stitched yourself. You do not speak because no one here speaks in the morning. Words are reserved for the dead, and they are everywhere. Wrapped, sealed, watching. The mat you slept on smells faintly of embalming salts and dried marjoram. The scent is inside your nose, your fingers, the fold of your elbow. It clings not like a stain, but like a promise. This is your first week as the temple's youngest hand, the newest soul entrusted with tending to those who have crossed into the realm of Duat, but not yet passed through. You have not yet seen Anubis with your eyes, but you've felt him once. When your sandals slipped on wet stone and you caught yourself on the lip of a preparation table, not empty, you felt his gaze, cool and ancient, watching not with cruelty, but with precision, as if he were measuring your usefulness. Now, lie back or take a slow sip of tea, or maybe coffee if that's your way. Let the morning unfold not with urgency, but with stillness, because here, in the house of death, even the sun must wait its turn. The courtyard is shaded by narrow walls, etched with prayers to Maat, the goddess of truth and balance. But even truth can flicker in this pale morning light. You pass through it like breath through reeds, soft, measured, barely disturbing the air. Your feet remember the texture of this path now baked mud, tiny ridges, powder-fine sand that sticks between your toes, reminders of yesterday and the day before. You do not brush it off. In the corner, near a pillar crowned with faded blue paint, someone has left a folded linen sheet, a child-sized one. The apprentice who slept here before you, no one mentions him, not because he's forgotten, but because memory here is too sharp to touch lightly. You wonder if he washed bodies too, if he whispered apologies while pulling out intestines with a copper hook, if he, too, once dreamed of being a temple scribe, only to wake up among salt jars and flies. The morning meal is simple. Flatbread dipped in olive oil, so old it smells like wood. One date. If the priest has leftovers, you chew slowly. Not because it tastes good, it doesn't, but because your jaw needs something to do while your hands tremble softly in your lap. Today you assist with a noble woman. That's all they told you. She was young, important. Her family paid extra for amulets and a second embalming priest. No mistakes. You do not ask her name. You will know it soon enough. It will be whispered over you like smoke. As you pass beneath the doorway into the inner temple, something shifts, not the air, which remains heavy and still, but your place in it. You are no longer a boy in a linen robe. You are a vessel. You carry not thoughts, but movements, not questions, but rituals. The walls close in with painted gods in profile, all eyes and elbows and eternity. Isis, Horus, Anubis, they follow you, not maliciously, but as if your every gesture must be witnessed, judged. You step more carefully now, adjusting your breath so it matches the rhythm of your footsteps. 4 steps per inhale, 4 for exhale. The body remembers what the soul forgets. The smell here is sharper. Bitumen, frankincense, the iron tang of blood that hasn't been blood for weeks. The woman lies on a low table at the center of the chamber. Not yet a mummy, not quite a person. Her skin is yellowed, her lips stiff, her eyes sealed with resin. Her arms are crossed in the old style, but her fingers have curled slightly away from the pose as if she tried to keep something close even after death. Beside her, the senior embalmer, a man with hands like driftwood and eyes like ink, nods to you. No words. He lifts a curved blade and places it into your hand. Your first cut will not be seen by anyone. It is inside the body, a symbolic incision made near the navel, followed by silence. You hesitate. The blade is too light. The silence. Too loud. He guides your hand with his own, slow and firm. And together you draw the crescent shape across skin that yields like wet papyrus. It is not horror you feel. It is reverence. You do not flinch. Not today. The work begins. First, the liver, then the stomach. You are taught to cradle each organ not like meat, but like memory delicate, pulsing, and nearly holy. The jars wait nearby, alabaster, carved with falcons and jackals. You do not yet know which organ belongs to which god, but you will. The priests say if you touch the heart too soon, you will carry its burdens. They tell you this after you've already brushed your finger against it, just once, just lightly, but it was enough. You wash your hands with palm ash and rinse them in a copper basin filled with river water and myrrh. The water looks clean, but you know better. The Nile is always watching. The water remembers what is placed in it. As you dry your hands, you hear the quiet chant from the hallway beyond the curtain, a priest reciting the names of safe passage, syllables stretched long like shadows in late afternoon. You do not join him, not yet. Your role today is to remain behind the veil, but your ears strain to follow the words, and you mouth the last line beneath your breath, like a secret shared with no one. You are not holy. Not yet, but today, Anubis is watching, and you are beginning to understand why. You carry the used blade back into the shadows, where a basin steams faintly and the smell of cedar clings like second skin. The older embalmer is already gone, moving in ways that leave no trace. You are alone now in this narrow space between the temple's breath and the deeper lungs of ritual. The door ahead is older than the rest, not because of its structure, but because of what it guards. It bears no hieroglyphs, just a faint discoloration, like a hand once rested there for centuries. You do the same, not to open it, not yet, but to feel the warmth of old wood under your palm, as if the threshold itself holds memory. This is where the god waits, not behind the door, exactly, but everywhere past it. You do not expect a voice. Anubis does not speak. He observes, he weighs, he remembers. When the door yields with a sigh, the scent shifts. Less smoke, more depth. It smells not of decay, but of time. Dustless, still. You step into a chamber so quiet, it feels carved from the breath of the underworld. No walls drip, no sound echoes. The only light is what leaks from a narrow cut in the ceiling, painting a soft shaft across a carved statue. There he stands, jackal-headed, poised with elegance and stillness that is neither passive nor tense. Anubis is depicted as a powerful god, tall, dark-furred, wrapped in linen and gold, with eyes that catch the light without returning it. His ears tilt forward, not in aggression, but in awareness. You have seen depictions before, scratched onto temple walls, printed into funeral masks, etched into the lids of wooden sarcophagi. But nothing prepares you for presence. It is not awe you feel. Awe can be expressed. This is something deeper. A silence that bends your spine slightly forward without permission. You do not bow. No one told you to, but your body does. A small movement at first. like a leaf giving way to the wind, not because it must, but because resistance would be unnatural. The air is thick here, not humid, but weighty, like it has been holding breath for too long. Behind the statue, narrow alcoves line the curved wall spaces where initiates leave offerings. Black feathers, bundles of herbs, bits of bone wrapped in fine thread, oil-stained scrolls, too faded to read. You are told not to touch. You don't. In the center of the room is a low stone table, its surface polished smooth by generations of hands. Atop it lies nothing today, but its emptiness holds more meaning than presence. This is where Anubis is said to rest his gaze when judging the soul's readiness for its final walk. You are not being judged today, not yet, but you are learning what judgment feels like. It is not a verdict. It is a quiet knowing. You place your offering, a sprig of blue lotus, trembling slightly in your fingers at the foot of the god statue. You feel foolish for the tremor, but also reverent. The flower was not chosen for beauty. It was chosen for its scent, its symbol, its sleep-inducing properties. Death is not absence here. It is transformation, and Anubis is its curator. Behind you, another novice enters. She's older, perhaps 17, with hands stained darker than yours, and a gaze that doesn't linger on the statue. She's been here before. She doesn't kneel. She nods to you and places a jar of oil beside your lotus. Her face is calm. Her linen tunic carries the faint golden edge of second-rank apprenticeship. You're not jealous, only quiet. The two of you do not speak. You simply stand beneath the eyes of the god and let your pulse settle. The silence is not oppressive. It's instructive. You are led into the deeper chamber by the senior priest, not the embalmer, but one of the high ritual keepers. His voice is like smooth papyrus, dragged slowly across stone. He speaks not in commands, but in truths that require no embellishment. You are not here to honor the god, he says. You are here to learn how to serve in his shadow. The phrase sinks into your skin, quiet and firm. You follow him without question into a chamber lit by 5 oil lamps, each arranged in a curve around a painted wall. The images are old, but not faded. Anubis is shown in various acts of preparation, holding the scales of judgment, tending to the dead, guiding souls across the threshold of night. In each depiction, his posture is poised, patient, never hurried. You notice this. Every gesture, whether lifting a linen shroud or holding a heart, is precise. The priest points to one image, Anubis standing beside a human figure who kneels with eyes closed, chest open, heart held gently in his hands. This is not mythology, he says. This is memory. This is what happens every day. Here, in this temple, in your hands. You do not reply. Words would fall through the stillness like pebbles in a glass bowl. Instead, you watch. You inhale the resin-thick air. You let the silence press deeper into your chest, reshaping your thoughts into simpler forms. You begin to understand that being seen by a god is not about grandeur. It is about accuracy, about being exactly what you are, no more, no less. When you are dismissed, you don't walk out. You move like ink spreading across linen, slow, deliberate, steady. You don't remember opening the door, only that your hand knew when to reach. The sun outside feels sharper now, but you carry the shadow with you. You return to the preparation chamber, where the noblewoman still lies beneath a linen cloth that breathes ever so slightly when the breeze slips through the corridor. Of course, she doesn't breathe, not anymore, but the folds of the fabric rise and fall like memory, refusing to settle. Her face is softer than you remembered. The yellowing of her skin has taken on a gentle hue in the low light, and her mouth, though closed, seems on the verge of speaking. The tools are laid out as before. Bronze hook, obsidian blade, small copper tongs, and the thin reed stylus used to mark the incision lines. You kneel, not out of submission, but to steady your hands. A shallow basin of natron water sits beside you. still and reflecting your face like a warped mirror. You dip your fingers in it. Coolness, brief and sharp, anchors your thoughts. No one tells you what to do. You already know. The next task is the removal of the brain. A slender bronze rod, curved at the end, is used to break through the nasal cavity. It's done through the nose, delicately, rhythmically. You've watched it done twice before. This time, you do it alone. The rod slides in with more resistance than expected. There's a moment short, but unbearable, where you feel as if you've invaded something that still knows itself. But then it gives, there's a release, a collapsing of structure. You withdraw carefully, drawing out what once held dreams, songs, disappointments, secrets, and you do not look away. Instead, you whisper, as they taught you, may you forget nothing, and may nothing remember your suffering. It is not for her. It is for you. You clean the rod. You clean your hands. You do not clean your thoughts. That comes later. The torso has already been opened. You weren't there when the initial incision was made that honor belonged to the second priest, but now it's yours to complete the ritual cleansing. The cavity must be filled with linen soaked in oil, myrrh, and ground herbs. You dip the linen strips into the mixture, lift them one by one, let the excess drip back into the bowl, then slide them gently beneath the rib cage where once breath moved. The cavity is strangely intimate. You do not feel horror anymore. You feel welcome, as though the body is letting you in, not with trust, but with tiredness. You work slowly, careful not to press too hard, careful not to let the cloth wrinkle or bunch. Every layer matters. Every fold is a prayer. As you work, you think of your mother, not her face, which is distant now, but her hands, the way she used to fold cloth when you were small, the way her fingers moved without thought. You mimic the rhythm without realizing. You understand now why folding mattered, why straight lines brought comfort, why smoothing out wrinkles could feel like safety. The silence grows thicker, the deeper you work. The room is not empty, yet no one speaks. Even the flies seem to hover farther away than usual. You glance up only once and catch the gaze of a painted Anubis on the far wall. His face is still, his jackal eyes unblinking. You remember the priest's words? This is not mythology. This is memory. Your hands continue, but something in you softens. The rhythm slows. Your breathing falls into step with the folds. It is not labor anymore. It is something closer to caretaking, or perhaps repentance. It is hard to tell the difference. The final step of this phase is anointing, a mixture of oils, cedar, frankincense, juniper, and a trace of cinnamon has been heated over a low flame until it's nearly black. It smells strong, not unpleasant, but serious, like something that knows its purpose and has no patience for your uncertainty. You pour the mixture slowly over the cloth, now filling the body. It hisses slightly as it meets the cooling flesh, a small sound, almost like speech. You wonder what the body would say if it could, not about its death, but about this moment, this return to care, this descent into ritual. Would it feel honored? Would it feel embarrassed? You do not ask aloud. You simply dip your fingers in the remaining oil and draw the sacred spiral over her sternum. Then the small cross beneath it, not a symbol of suffering, but of direction, a map for the soul to find its way. You were told this marking is not necessary, but that Anubis notices. The cloth beneath your knees is soaked now. You rise slowly, back tight, legs tingling from too long in stillness. Your hands drip with oil and something deeper. You do not wipe them yet. There's something sacred about the residue, the evidence of having done something irreversible. You look at the body one last time. The face is calmer now, almost content, as if the body, once full of laughter and politics and midnight worries, has accepted its next chapter. It is not your job to guide it there, only to prepare it. And so you bow, not deeply, just enough to acknowledge that you've touched something infinite. And for now, it has allowed you to live. The heart is never removed lightly. even among the senior embalmers. It is an act that draws stillness into the room like a sudden eclipse. You have not been asked to perform the extraction, not yet, but you are to carry the jar. And somehow, that feels even heavier. The priest hands it to you without ceremony, a small alabaster vessel, smooth to the touch, capped with a lid shaped like a human head, Imseti, the protector of the heart. His face is calm, rounded, dignified. He does not smile. He does not need to. You hold the jar with both hands, not because of its weight, but because it feels wrong to carry it with one. The heat from your palms begins to warm the stone almost immediately. You wonder if that warmth travels inward, if the heart can still feel it. The woman's body has been turned gently on its side to allow access to the cavity where the heart was removed. It rests now on a bed of white linen, darkened at the edges where the oils were poured. Beside it, the heart, still reddish, still full in form, not yet dried, not yet transformed. It lies as if waiting, as if aware. The senior embalmer nods. You kneel, not a deep gesture, but instinctual. You lower the jar next to the organ and wait for instruction, but none comes. Instead, the room shifts subtly, not in temperature, but in time. Everything slows. You realize the next gesture must come from you. You reach for the heart. Your fingers do not shake, though your breath shortens. You lift it gently, palms open like you're carrying water that might spill. It is heavier than expected, yet fragile. Its surface is slick, and your grip tightens without meaning to. You place it into the jar, and just like that, you've touched someone's afterlife. The lid does not go on immediately. There is a chant to be recited. First, one you've memorized but never spoken aloud. The words of balance, 42 lines, each a denial of wrongdoing. You do not yet know them all, but you know the first few, and today, that is enough. You whisper them slowly. I have not stolen. I have not lied. I have not slain the innocent. I have not defiled sacred places. With each line, the jar feels heavier, as if the heart is listening, as if it is measuring you as much as it will be measured itself. You continue. I have not eaten what is not mine. I have not forgotten the names of the gods. I have not neglected the rites of the dead. The words linger in the air, faintly curling upward like invisible incense. You wonder if they float all the way to the Hall of Mahat, where the weighing takes place, the great scales suspended between truth and eternity. You've seen the paintings, the heart in one pan, the feather in the other, Anubis leaning close, his hand steady on the bar, and beside him, the devourer Amit, part lion, part crocodile, part hippopotamus, waiting with jaws half open, for those whose souls tip the scales the wrong way. You glance at the jar again. The lid, resting beside it, has tiny lines etched beneath the chin of Imseti. Not hieroglyphs, just the tool marks of a craftsman long dead. And yet, his fingers touched this very surface, just as yours do now. The priest says nothing. He simply waits. You understand what is required. You lift the lid and seal the jar with a soft press. A single exhale, and a thought you cannot name. The heart is hidden now, but not forgotten. You carry the sealed jar to the storeroom, where rows of shelves hold others like it, dozens of alabaster vessels, some fresh, some aged to a warm amber by time and candlelight. Each one contains the weight of a life, preserved in resin and prayer. You are told to place the jar on the middle shelf, left of the one with the falcon lid. The shelf groans slightly under your fingers, not from strain, but from memory. As you slide the jar into place, your fingertips brush the surface of the neighboring container. A faint ridge, not damage, but a glyph. Someone has marked it, subtly, for reasons you don't understand. You leave it be. The room is dim. A single slit in the wall lets in light just wide enough to stripe the jars with gold. You look at them, lined in rows. Perfect. Identical, but knowing each one holds a heart that once quickened at the sound of a child's laugh, or clenched with shame after an unspoken wrong. The shelves do not just hold organs, they hold stories. You close the storeroom door slowly. It doesn't latch cleanly unless you press twice. You've learned that already. The priest says nothing as you return to the chamber. He simply gestures toward a basin of water and a fresh cloth. You wash your hands, watching the oil and resin swirl into the drain like ink in wine. But something stays behind on your skin. Not scent, not stain, something subtler. The heart is gone from your hands now, but it has not quite left you. The ritual of sealing the mouth is not about silence. It is about direction, about ensuring that the voice of the dead goes where it must, and nowhere else. In life, a tongue can wander. It can betray or bless. In death, it must know only the words that open doors. Words that protect, words that persuade gods. You are brought back into the chamber as the final rites begin. The noblewoman's body, now fully prepared and stuffed with salts and sacred linens, rests on a platform of cedarwood. Her features have tightened in the drying. Her lips no longer resemble those of a living woman. They have become symbols. A threshold. A priest in a red sash holds a slender reed wand, shaped at the end like the tongue of a crocodile. He does not use it. He hands it to you. You've only held this wand once before. During training, it was handed to you dry and clean. Never used, never sacred. Today it has been blessed. It smells faintly of milk and honey. You lift it, not with hesitation, but with stillness. Your hands are steady. Your breathing is not. The priest begins the opening of the mouth litany. You echo each line. May your lips open to praise rocks. May your mouth drink the sweet water. May your voice speak your true name to the stars. With each phrase, you brush the wand gently against the edges of her mouth, not forcefully, but as if coaxing something buried. A thought, a last memory, a goodbye. You touch the chin, then each cheek, then back to the lips. May your voice travel without fear. May the gods hear you. And remember, you are not sealing her voice. You are giving it wings. The wand is dipped into a shallow bowl of resin, thickened and blackened with crushed herbs. You're told to paint a small line across the lips, no longer than the width of a scarab's wing. Not to close the mouth, but to bind it softly. A promise, not a prison. As you press the wand lightly across her lips, something flickers behind your ribs. Not fear, not sadness, a sense of presence. As though the room, previously filled with ritual, has suddenly filled with awareness. Not hers, yours. You have prepared this woman's body. You have cleaned her, filled her, wrapped her, and now you give her back to herself. For the first time, you wonder who she was beyond her family's name and status. Did she sing? Did she love? Did she hate the taste of lentils or argue about the stars with her father? The body tells none of these things, and yet, here you are, holding her fate between your fingers. A drop of resin slips from the wand and touches the side of her cheek. You freeze. The priest notices. He does not scold you. He hands you a linen cloth. You blot gently. The skin beneath is already hardening. No longer flesh. Not yet statue. It accepts your touch like stone accepts water passively. With time, you complete the line across the lips and return the wand to its place on the ritual shelf. It will be burned later. Its task complete. The priest nods once, not in approval, in acknowledgement. The silence that follows feels different from the others you've known in this temple. It is not emptiness, it is peace. You are asked to speak one final prayer, and this time, it must come from you. Not a memorized chant, not a copied line. Your words. At first, your throat tightens. You are not a priest. You are not wise. You are only hands and sweat and youth. But the God is listening, not to your vocabulary, to your intent. So you close your eyes. Inhale the scent of cedar and resin, and speak not with elegance, but with honesty. Walk safely. Go where you are remembered. Take no pain with you. Leave nothing unloved behind. It is not poetic. It is not complete, but it is enough. The priest places a hand on your shoulder. Not heavy, just real. He says nothing. He turns and leaves. You remain. You look at the woman's face. No longer hers, but a vessel. You feel no pity, no pride. Just completion. The task has ended. The next will come. You begin cleaning the tools, each one washed in wine and water, wiped with a cloth, returned to its place with a gesture of thanks. You were taught that tools, too, have memory, that they carry the imprint of each soul they touch. So you touch them with care, not because you are afraid, but because you are grateful. When all is done, you sit on the stone bench near the door. You do not sleep. You simply sit, and for the first time in days, the silence inside you matches the silence of the temple. You have sealed a mouth, but something has opened in you. You step into the courtyard again, blinking as the sun slips beneath the low awnings, bending shadows into long, soft ribbons across the stone. The ritual chamber is behind you, but it follows, not in spirit, but in presence. Your hands are clean, scrubbed until the oil has lifted, the scent faded, the texture returned to skin, but beneath your nails, the story of the day still rests, quiet and invisible. You sit where the others sit, not alone, not together, just present. A simple reed mat, woven by someone who now serves another temple, or none. Your portion is modest, flat bread, still warm, though dry at the edges, a scoop of lentils, thickened with onions, a wedge of date cake that holds more memory than sugar. A small clay cup of beer is passed to you sour, heavy, barely cooled, but welcome. You receive it with both hands. It tastes of grain and dusk and something older. No one speaks much, not because there is nothing to say, but because speaking aloud feels like a shift too steep for the body to climb. The young girl from yesterday's ceremony, the one with the red-edged sash, sits across from you. Her eyes meet yours only once, and in that glance you both exchange something wordless. Not approval, not comfort, just a recognition that you've both stood near what does not move, and come back breathing. The flies are relentless. They hover in lazy spirals, drawn not just by food, but by the heat of living skin. One lands on your wrist, another near your lip. You wave gently, and they return a moment later, indifferent to your efforts. The priest says they're a form of remembrance, always coming back, always feeding. You try not to think about it while you chew. A boy no older than 8 walks past, carrying a bundle of linen on his back, the corner stained with ochre. You don't know his name. You never ask. He pauses only to set the cloth down near the shade of the tamarisk tree, then disappears into the back corridor where jars are rinsed and trays scraped clean. He will be you, soon, or maybe you were him. Not long ago, your attention drifts to the basin near the outer wall, where 3 jars sit cooling in the shallow water. One of them is yours, the heart you placed earlier, its lid now warm from the sun. You wonder if the organ within has shifted, if the weight of the water surrounding the jar has pressed against the alabaster in some ritual echo of judgment. The courtyard holds life, but it does not escape the dead. A painted coffin rests against the far column, propped at an angle, so the resin can set in the sun. The face on its surface is freshly lacquered, gold leaf catching in the creases where the artisan's brush once trembled. Even here, during rest, during the faint ritual of midday meal, you eat beside the symbols of what is no longer breathing. It doesn't disturb you. Not anymore. In some way, the dead are less interruptive than the living. They ask for care, not conversation, for precision, not praise. A girl refills your cup. She doesn't speak, just a glance, a tilt of the jug, a small nod before retreating. You sip and feel the weight settle in your stomach. It is not hunger that pulls at you anymore. It's habit. You feed the body because it must be kept working. No one here eats for joy, only continuation. A distant bell sounds not musical, just a soft clang against copper, marking the hour for cooling linen and rewrapping tools. You wipe your hands against the cloth laid beside your mat. The priest who oversees the storeroom walks slowly past, his sandals brushing the stones with the rhythm of someone counting steps. He pauses at the edge of the shade, looks once toward the sealed chamber, and continues without a word. You stand, not quickly, but deliberately. Your legs ache faintly. The muscles behind your knees stretch like old rope. You roll your shoulder once. The taste of the beer remains, earthy and unfinished. Before you return to the inner rooms, you walk briefly toward the basin. You touch the side of the heart jar. Its surface is warm now. You do not lift it. You do not open it. You just let your fingertips rest there long enough to remember what you carried inside. The flies return. You don't swat this time. You simply walk on. The temple awaits, and though the midday meal is done, you know the day is far from over. You are learning that rest here is not relief. It is only pause. You return to the chamber just as the linen is being laid out, hundreds of feet of it, finely woven, bleached by the sun, smoothed by hand until even the wind hesitates before disturbing it. It lies coiled like something alive, waiting to fulfill its single task, to gather what remains of a life and hold it together, not in the sense of containment, but in the quiet act of offering structure where once blood and breath had done the job. The noblewoman's body is dry now, and light in a way that feels deceptive, as though her soul took only what was necessary, and left behind only the parts the earth will not eat. The salt has drawn out everything soft, leaving the angles of the ribs sharp beneath the skin, the fingers curled inward as if resting on a secret. The priest overseeing this phase gives you a nod, and you begin at the feet, unrolling the linen slowly, smoothing each pass with the flat of your palm. There's a rhythm to this work that has nothing to do with speed. If you rush, the folds will buckle. If you pause too long, the oils will set unevenly. You must match your movement to the silence of the room, to the way the light falls against the stone, to the faint scent of chamomile that rises from the corner where the jars of perfume sit uncorked. You wrap each toe. You curl the fabric over the arch of the foot. You climb, slowly, past the ankle, letting the cloth cross itself with care. The linen does not hide the body. It reveals its outline more clearly than before, turning it from something once known into something symbolic. You are not hiding her. You are introducing her to eternity as you work your way upward. Your fingers memorize the terrain of the human form, not just muscle and joint, but the subtle dips and hollows where memory might still linger. Over the knee, the wrap must be tighter. Over the thigh, it loosens, not from lack of pressure, but out of respect for the shape that bore the weight of movement. You do not speak, and neither do the others in the room. One apprentice readies the amulets that will be inserted between layers, and another begins warming the resin that will seal the outermost layer. But no one says a word. Sound would break something here. Not the ritual, but the spell of reverence it draws around the task. When you reach the hips, the wrapping becomes slower. You know this is the point where offerings are most often placed: carved scarabs, small papyrus prayers, a bit of lapis lazuli pressed into a soft fold, as if wealth could accompany love into the realm of shadows. You press an amulet into place yourself, a tiny figure of Isis, arms outstretched, and wrap her beneath the third layer, like a secret entrusted to the cloth. You do not ask who ordered it. You do not ask what it means. Some things are known only by the dead, and they are allowed to keep their mysteries. You move to the torso now, and here the rhythm changes again. Around the ribs, the linen must cross itself in 7 precise loops. The number is not decorative. It represents completion. It reflects the number of major deities who will judge the heart. You do not need to remember their names. You remember the count: 1, 2. 3 smooth. Press. Fold 4. 5. Lift gently. Don't crease the corner. 6. Hold the breath. 7. You tie it with a thread dipped in resin. The smell, now, is heavier. The oils have warmed. Your hands shine with their touch. The final phase is the face. This is not simply the end. It is the moment the body ceases to be seen as a person and becomes a symbol, no longer the noblewoman you first encountered, but a figure prepared to meet gods, step into myths, and become the subject of prayers whispered generations from now by people who will never know her name. The cloth here is the thinnest, nearly transparent, as if the gods themselves must be able to see through it. You wrap the chin first, guiding the linen along the jaw, up toward the temples, then across the crown of the head. Each pass is light but precise. The mouth, already sealed, is given an extra line of linen not to silence, but to guide. The nose is covered carefully, and the eyes last. 2 small shells are placed beneath the final fold, not for vision, but for remembrance. Even gods may forget. Shells do not. You press the last knot against the nape of the neck. The body is still again. You do not feel triumph. You do not feel grief. You feel completion, not the kind that ends a task, but the kind that allows something new to begin. The priest steps forward, sprinkles a fine dust of ground incense over the body, and nods for you to step back. You do. The wrapped form is lifted by 4 men and carried slowly toward the inner sanctum where the coffin awaits. You do not follow. That part is not yours. You remain standing beside the now empty wrapping table. Your hands are slick with oil. Your knees ache. Your breath comes slow and low, like the heat of a dying lamp. The linen has done its work. So have you, and as you gather the remaining scraps, the cut ends, the extra folds. The thread's too short to use, you feel, for the first time, that you two are being wrapped, not in cloth, but in understanding. You are not the same as when you entered. It begins not with sound, but with weight, a kind of invisible pressure that builds quietly, like rising water beneath your ribs. You've finished wrapping the final layer of linen around the body of a merchant's wife, a woman unknown to you beyond the brief note that listed her family's offerings. A bronze mirror, a ring carved from bone, a small alabaster pot of blue pigment meant for the eyes. Her preparation had been ordinary. No songs were sung for her. No high priest stood in attendance. She arrived at the temple quietly, and she will leave it in the same manner. But as you remain behind to clean the platform, smoothing the resin from the corners, brushing the edges of the table with a palmful of sand, you feel something shift. You straighten your back. The air has thickened, not unpleasantly, not in temperature, but in presence. It's as though a second version of the room now overlays the first, more vivid somehow, yet utterly silent. The oil lamp flickers once. You are not alone, not in the ordinary sense, not with sound or shadow, but with an awareness that settles just behind your left shoulder. You don't turn. You don't need to. And then, from nowhere and everywhere, a thought arrives, not yours, but shaped like language nonetheless. It's not a sentence. It's not even words. It's closer to the memory of a voice that never spoke, but somehow remains. I was not ready. That's all. A feeling, quiet as ash, that seeps through the air between the linen-wrapped form and your chest. You stop moving. You listen, not with ears, but with something slower. The voice, if it can be called that, doesn't repeat itself. It lingers. It fills the corners of your lungs, the back of your throat, the soles of your feet. It doesn't press or command. It simply exists, suspended in the stillness. You kneel beside the table, not to pray, not out of ritual, but because your knees bend without instruction. You reach for the edge of the cloth, not to disturb, but to be near. Your hand hovers, then drops gently to the stone. The linen does not move. The body does not change, but something beneath it or within it softens, not physically, but in the way the presence settles, like a pool. After the wind has left its surface, you exhale slowly, and that thought returns. I was not ready. It's not regret. It's not a complaint. It is not even directed at you. It simply is an unfinished emotion that echoes beyond the border of breath. You stay there longer than you need to. The priest does not interrupt. Perhaps he senses it too, or perhaps this moment belongs only to you. You glance toward the doorway, toward the sunlit corridor where a child's laughter from the outer court momentarily breaks the stillness. But here, in this threshold space between the prepared and the departed, there is no laughter. There is only the awareness that this work, so methodical, so physical, has layers you were never trained for. You whisper nothing. No response feels appropriate. Yet your silence is not empty. It is a reply the way still water replies to the wind. When the feeling lifts, it does not leave. It disperses like incense, barely visible, wholly present. You rise, not knowing what you've heard, only that you will never forget it. Later that evening, while unrolling new bolts of linen for the next preparation, you find your fingers tracing the fabric with a different rhythm. You are not checking for imperfections. You are listening. Listening for the faintest echo of presence, not because you expect to hear another voice, but because you now understand that silence contains more than absence. You ask one of the older apprentices, quietly, whether they've ever heard anything while working. Not chants, not prayers, but something else. They don't look up from their task. They just nod once and say, "Only when we've been paying attention." It is not a warning. It is not a mystery. It's just the way things are. That night, as you rinse your hands in the temple basin and dry them on the cloth that smells faintly of date palm, you replay the moment, not to understand it, but to hold it. You were not spoken to, not in the way people speak, but something of her passed through you, if only briefly, and now you carry it a shadow not on your back, but in your memory. You do not tell the priests. You do not write it down. There is no scroll for such things, no procedure. But when you step into the chamber again, when you touch the next body, when you lift the next jar, you move more gently. You wrap not only with linen now, but with reverence, and you understand, in a way you didn't before, that the dead are not quiet. They are just waiting for someone to be still enough to listen. By now, your steps through the embalming halls no longer echo like they did in the beginning. The stone beneath your soles feels worn in places your skin has not touched, but your breath adjusts automatically to each chamber's rhythm, as though your body has learned the architectural pulse of this place better than any prayer you've been asked to memorize. You pass the bronze brazier with its unceasing trail of frankincense, the copper vessel where the mixing oils are stirred with a reed rod, and you notice for the first time how nothing here is purely for function. Everything is built for watching, the eyes of Anubis, painted over every archway and lintel. Stare not with menace, but with focus. You feel them not as surveillance, but as expectation, a steady reminder that this work is not your own, that your hands, though human, perform divine rehearsals for a drama unseen. You've been told the gods attend every preparation, but now you begin to sense it not through vision or sound, but through the way the air shifts the moment your thoughts wander. You drop a tool, and it lands oddly. You reach too quickly for a cloth, and your wrist knocks against the edge of the altar. These are not punishments. They are nudges. You are being watched, not judged for failure, but for attention. The gods do not care if you're fast. They do not care if you know the order of herbs or the names of each resin. But they notice where your gaze goes when no one else is in the room. They notice how long you hold the silence between rituals. They notice whether you clean the empty jars with the same devotion you give to sealing the sacred ones. And they remember. That afternoon, you're assigned a body no one else wants. An old man, toothless, sunken, abandoned by family. delivered in silence, without even a papyrus to indicate his name. The priests tell you his rites will be minimal. Expedient, they say. Practical, you nod. But you don't move toward the oils. Not yet. You look at the man. His fingers are curled inwards in a way that reminds you of vines. His feet are calloused, cracked, the kind of texture that speaks of decades lived barefoot over hot soil. There is nothing noble about him. No amulets have been brought. No heart jar will be filled. His death is unremarkable. His journey into eternity will be quiet. But you wrap him with the same patience. You do not adjust your rhythm. You layer the linen gently. Press the folds evenly. Rub oil into the creases of his wrists and neck. Not because someone is watching, but because someone might be. The gods do not appear in smoke. They do not applaud. But the silence shifts again, just slightly, as if the stone itself exhales. When you lift his body for the final turn, a small item falls from beneath his shoulder, a scrap of wood. Not carved, just polished smooth by time. You hold it up. The priest shrugs. Nothing, he says. But you place it between the wrappings anyway, near the chest, where a heart would have once been, not as treasure, not as offering, but as memory. And for the first time, you feel something unusual as you tie the final knot. Not a breeze, not a shiver, just stillness that feels seen. The gods don't want perfection. They want sincerity. As the day ends and the embalmers return their tools to the carved niches, you linger near the outer sanctum where the sky can be glimpsed through the open ceiling. A single ibis walks along the edge of the stone gutter, its legs impossibly thin, its body motionless, its eye reflecting a tiny speck of blue from the dying sun. You've read that Thoth sometimes appears this way, silent, plain, disguised as the mundane. But now you understand the purpose. To observe without disrupting, to witness without altering, to record without comment. You wonder how many times you've been seen this way. How many gestures, careless or tender, have been etched invisibly into the eternal record without your knowing. Not all offerings are spoken. Some are given in the small choices made when no one is asking. Some are measured by the steadiness of your breath as you lift a jar. Some are remembered in the time it takes you to arrange a body's fingers not into rigidity, but rest. The gods do not need you to be flawless. They need you to mean it. And as you walk back to the chamber where the last light touches the stone, you realize you are not merely training for a task. You are being shaped into someone who sees what the gods see, and more importantly, into someone who acts accordingly. There is a moment, after the ritual is done, when the temple feels empty in a way that has nothing to do with absence. The final jar has been sealed, the final prayer whispered, the final body carried into the tomb chamber where it will be received not by family or mourners, but by walls that remember more than any living person ever could. The echo that follows is not hollow, it is full, and you are left in that fullness, surrounded by the tools of your task, the copper knife placed back into its box, the folded cloths stained by oil and time, the small reed broom that will soon sweep the dried salt from the floor. You are alone, but not untouched. You light a lamp, not for light, but for continuity. The flame doesn't push back darkness. It confirms presence. The room is not abandoned. You are still here, and so is the work. Though it no longer requires your hands, you sit beside the wall where the murals show the journey of the soul, the bark of Ra, sailing through the 12 hours of night, the weighing of the heart, the garden of the field of reeds where no one ages, where every harvest is perfect and effortless. You look at the painted figures. They do not look at you. Their faces are fixed forward, each eye carved with the same precise curve, as though certainty were not a matter of belief, but of anatomy. You wonder what remains of those who once filled this room with breath, not just the dead, but the embalmers before you, the apprentices who once stood exactly where you're sitting, the old priests who once trained others to fold linen and grind resin. There is no record of them. only the perfection of their movements passed down through your hands. You begin to tidy the table not as a chore, not even as habit, but as a kind of gesture to time itself. The cloth that cushioned the tools is folded with care. The unused thread, still sticky with resin, is returned to its pot. You sweep the dried flakes of natron into a small heap and brush them into the waste basin. None of these actions feel like endings. They feel like renewals, not for the next body, but for the space itself, which seems to breathe differently after every ritual, as though it too is undergoing transformation. The body has left, yes, but something lingers in its place. You think of the noblewoman you wrapped last week, of the old man whose finger curled around the scrap of wood, of the child whose preparation was rushed and unceremonious, yet still careful. Their names may fade, but the gestures do not. Every knot you tied was witnessed. Every fold held weight. Even now, you remember the way the linen slipped under your fingers, the feel of warm oil over cool skin, the sound of your own breath when everything else had gone still. There is no ceremony for this part, no chant, no incense, no acknowledgement. Yet it is in these quiet minutes that the truest work takes place. You are not preparing the body anymore. You are preparing yourself, not for gods or judgment, but for endurance, for the simple act of doing it again tomorrow with the same care, the same steadiness, the same willingness to hold what is fading and treat it like something sacred. You glance toward the doorway, but you do not leave. The moment has not ended. It is still unfolding, soft and steady as the scent of myrrh rising from the brazier. Before the day closes, you step into the storeroom once more, not to collect or deliver anything, but to just look at the rows of jars and bundles and tools resting in quiet order. You trace your eyes along the shelves where each jar, though sealed, hums with its own invisible presence. These are not trophies. They are promises, each one a silent agreement between the living and the dead that care will outlast memory. That devotion does not require recognition. You stand there until the lamp beside you flickers, the oil low, the wick bending inward. Only then do you turn, walking slowly back through the corridor, past the mural of Anubis tending the scales, past the door where the sun no longer reaches. The temple is empty. Or it seems so, but something still watches. Not a god, not a spirit, just the place itself, holding everything it has ever seen. You step outside, where the night air no longer feels like relief, but like continuity. The sky stretches above you, thick with stars so bright they seem to pull at the corners of your sight. You do not count them. You do not name them. You simply stand beneath them, the same way your predecessors did, the same way those who will come after you will do. You carry nothing in your hands, but in your breath, your posture, your quiet movement. You carry the unspoken weight of what you've done. The day is over. The body is gone. But something quiet, steady, shaped like purpose remains, and it walks with you into the dark, asking for nothing, only that you remember what it means to serve what is no longer here with reverence, with rhythm, with no need for witness. You've walked the temple corridors, carried the silence of the dead in your hands, wrapped a life not in judgment, but in care. You've stood beside gods without needing to see them, and you've learned what it means to show devotion not with praise, but with presence steady, quiet, sincere. This morning journey was never about the body. It was about the becoming, the way a task transforms the soul who performs it. In the stillness of ritual, in the repetition of movements learned by generations long buried, you found more than routine. You found the quiet kind of power that lives in intention, in listening, in doing something fully, even when no one else will ever know. You were given no glory. You were offered no reward, but you gave your full attention anyway, and that is what endures. You are not an apprentice of death. You are a keeper of thresholds, a witness to what passes. a guardian of stories whose words have crumbled. Every body you touched reminded you nothing truly ends. Not love, not care, not presence, especially not presence. So take this with you now. Let the quiet inside you stretch and settle. Let it remind you that service does not have to be seen to matter. That attention is a form of prayer. That reverence, when lived fully, makes even the smallest gesture eternal. The linen you wrapped will fade. The names will be forgotten. But the way you moved, the way you served, will echo, quietly, endlessly, like a breath through a still room. Now, let your breath settle, ready for a beautiful day.